So I wanted to catch you all up on what's been happening with the R8 for the last 3 days. The great part is, yes, the air shock will work. It will raise and lower the car. But I was running into a situation there where the line was leaking, leaving the compressor. And as soon as it got low, we would come to a point where you can't move the car. So can't go along with that. But our silver lining was how quick Scale was in responding. I gave them a call, I followed up with an email, and they responded right away. They were aware of the issue, they updated the shock to another variant, and they are shipping one out. So it should be, I'm getting ready to receive it any moment now. I'll pop it in as soon as it does, and we'll be back on the road. Now, this shock is going to be 10 millimeters taller, 10 millimeter shaft longer. So it should be an improved design that will prevent the shearing that occurred with this previous shock. They have next day service, so I was able to turn it around pretty quickly, and they gave me 2 for 1, which is a very, very, very important thing there when we're talking about a $200 shock. So I made out a little bit cheaper than I expected to with replacing the front suspension on this, but thankfully, their customer service is above anything that I've experienced, especially in a COVID world. So big ups to Scale and their Alpine series for helping me get the R8 back on the road. With that, let's get this old Harley shock off, back on the bike, and we'll get the replacement Scale Alpine series shock on the front. That way we can get back on the road. All right, so it's finally arrived. Let's see what Scale has packed up for me today. If all goes well, I should have everything I need to take care of this front suspension. Okay, there's one. And here goes 2. Let's compare this to the old one. Okay. So these look identical. I'm not seeing anything spelling out right or left. I'm gonna put one back in the box just to avoid confusion. All right, through the magic of YouTube TV, this is the old shock. You can tell because that is the broken top piece. And I've gotten everything pretty much disassembled. All of the parts are over here for the old one. And here's the rest of the top of the old one. The new one, you got this and you got these. And I'm just getting the final lower collar off. So I already know the overall measurement of the shock. On my car, it was 14.75. So from end to end, 14.75 is my number. I'm gonna have to go off of overall measurement instead of the settings on here, because as you can see, this one goes up to 17 and there's a big difference between the two of them. It's fully extended and everything. So that's what I'm dealing with right now, but overall, no concerns about getting to the finish line. Okay. I know this bad boy is roughly 3.5. We're likely gonna have to move this in a little bit more, but it's all good. Okay, So now we are at the place where we can put the perch for the spring. So we'll clean up those. Now we're gonna put on the top one, and as you can see, it has this lip on there, which is perfect for setting right inside the spring. Of course, there is a thin, seems like plastic washer that goes in between that. So let's clean it up, get it on. Spring all cleaned up. Dust boot on. And now we can start to put on the rest of the top. So let's see what we got here. We have upper spring components like this rubber pad, and then the final piece, I'm just gonna line up the bottom with that coil. Sorry about that, let me move you up so you can see what I got. So this is the retaining nut piece. Okay, so as you can see, there's not enough slack taken up on there, so I'm going to have to adjust all of this upward to put on that tension. So here goes. I get the feeling that a little bit taller than the 14.75 that I'm after. Let me take that new measurement now and see how much further I have to compress this spring. I'm at 16 right now. From eyelet to eyelet, 15 and 5/8. So I gotta move this spring and this collar up further so I could take up some of that slack. And then also, I'm gonna have to move this base up to take up some of that as well. So let's do those right now. Okay, so that's near the max adjustability that I have for shortening up this. So let's take another look. Yeah, that's it. Let me get these eyelets to line up. Oh no, I forgot. Darn it. It's gotta come back off now. Okay, so here we are. Everything is finally adjusted, and here's a few helpful hints if you're working with your scale coilover as well. So my spring height, fully extended, is 150 millimeters. So 10 millimeters of preload should be set before we even get it over on the car. So I had to measure top and bottom to make sure I was right at 140 millimeters, which ends up being 5 9/16. So all of that is set in the spring. For the eyelets, I'm measuring from the center of the top hole to the center of the bottom hole, and I'm right at 14.75 to 14.875, which is what I measured beforehand. I was measuring off of these broken components, so I wanted to get things as close as possible before I started to heave everything back into the car, and everything looks good. So that is fully assembled, put back together and ready to go. I've done my check of old parts. I got dust boot, old shock, and old top piece. And no extra parts, which is very important when you're putting back something like this together. So let's get it installed in the car. All right, now everything is put back together. Everything is tightened down to torque specs. So we will get the, the fender liner back on, all of the trunk components back on, and we'll be good to go. All right, so the R8 is put back together. It is ready for its maiden voyage, and the shocks weren't too hard to change out. So I do have to get this car out of here. I have to get the Buick back in the garage because it's getting ready to rain soon, and the sunroof seals are bad on it. So I want to make sure it's protected from the rain. So I will tackle the coolant reservoir on the next video. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time.